All right. I have just a minute after the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody who is on the line so far, it looks like you guys are really good about muting your microphones. Thank you so much. We are pleased to have Annalyn and Georgianne from KPG joining us today, and they are going to be doing their recap slash how they've been influenced by an Ed Connect session that went on in late October. Georgianne has been at KPG for almost 8 years, but Annalyn is fairly new. Looks like you just passed your 1-year anniversary. Congrats.
That is correct.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, we are looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. We are going to be doing the chat window to keep track of any questions, and then at the end, Georgianne and Annalyn will do a Q&A. So if you've got questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat window so we don't lose them, but we will probably be saving them all till the end. So just as an FYI there. That is about it for housekeeping. So Georgianne and Annalyn, you guys have the stage.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carrie. And I really want to thank SDA because the whole nature of the reason we're here today is because we applied for and got the scholarship to attend ED Connect 2020. And so this is our way of paying back the generous tuition you afforded us for that. So thank you very much. And we had a choice of all of the different seminars in the from ED Connect, and the reason we chose this one is that we've had a ton of creative energy as a team over the past 5 years, and our role as an admin team has expanded, and we've been really supporting our professional service staff more and more because they've needed more support. So we really appreciated Simon Goodhead's view that our positions are highly valuable, and we wanted to hear his ideas so that we could continue to expand and grow our team. As Carrie said a moment ago, I've been at KPG for almost 8 years. 2.5 of that was as a drafter on the architecture team, and then I took a break and came back, and I've been back just over 5 years now. A little bit about my history. I have a bachelor's of science in psychology, so I spent many years working in the nonprofit industry, and I decided to make a career change in my late 30s. So I went back, got an associate's degree in architectural drafting, and that's how I found my way to KPG. I grew up in Texas, but I consider myself an honorary Northwesterner now that I've been here over 20 years. And really what I love about my job at KPG is it's a super and creative environment. And I absolutely love watching our projects turn into reality, and things in the community like a bike path I can ride my bike on, or a transfer station I can take my garbage to. So it's really wonderful, and I love the people and interacting with all the different personalities at KPG.
Hello, I'm Annalyn. I grew up on the East Coast, and I graduated from Temple University in Philly with a bachelor's in strategic communications. I moved to Seattle last year in 2019, and prior to moving, I worked in the real estate industry, particularly in multifamily. So I've been a part of the admin team here at KPG for a little over a year. My anniversary was 11/11. So I've been here for a year now, and I work very closely with Georgie. My favorite part of my job here is investigating and ultimately solving budget-related puzzles. I love problem solving, so that is my favorite part of my admin role here at KPG.
And a little bit about our firm. So we are an interdisciplinary firm. So we collaborate, and we have over, I think we have 11 disciplines now. There's, I think, 8 of them listed there. Our biggest team is our engineering team, but we also have an architecture group, an aviation group. We do construction management services. We have landscape architecture. We do survey and mapping, stormwater engineering, transportation and traffic engineering. And we just recently added a utility engineering department, and we also do urban design. Our CEO is up in the top right corner there, Cecily Asado and her dog Riley, and then below her is 2 of our principals. Actually, the gentleman on the right, Joe Jacobazzi, he's the G in KPG, and he is our founder. And then Paul Fusel to the left, he's also one of our principals. And those pictures, and I hope the other ones on this slide help you see that in our company culture is really what is one of the best qualities about working for KPG. We've been together for 30 years, and we've really grown organically from 3 employees up to 115. And we've really been intentional about maintaining our company culture throughout the whole thing. And as you can see, dogs are a huge part of the KPG offices. And on Friday afternoons, you can see many of them running around and playing, and everyone connecting around our wonderful little 4-legged employees.
All right, so for the goals of this presentation, today we'd like to go over some of the talking points from Mr. Goodhead's presentation that stood out to us the most. Ultimately, our goal is to share those ideas with you and have some meaningful discussions at the conclusion of the presentation. We'd love to hear more about your firm and how you fit into the big picture as a member of the admin team. So Mr. Goodhead titled his presentation, Why Admins Might Rule the World. And as Georgie mentioned, KPG's company culture is very important. And one of the things that makes KPG such a fun place to work is the fact that it's a dog-friendly office. So prior to COVID-19, my puppy Maverick loved coming to work with me. He'd sit in on our meetings, walk around the office, say hi to all my coworkers, and wag his tail cheerfully after any challenging days at work. So soon, Georgie and I appointed Maverick as our unofficial project admin mascot. And like Maverick, the admin team attends meetings, keeps all the disciplines connected, and provides support to the project managers. We believe that the project admin team really acts as the glue that keeps KPG running smoothly. Often the work that we participate in is behind the scenes, but it is necessary to the success of our projects. And so for that reason, Maverick would like to remind you that we are the secret superpower of our project managers. So next, we are going to discuss briefly how the A&E industry is changing and what it could mean for us as project admins. Admins are not simply accessories to the project, we are assets. And we hope this presentation will give you the opportunity to reflect on your strengths and really think about how you can continue to utilize your gifts. And then in addition, we hope the presentation will spark ideas about personal qualities or responsibilities that you're interested in developing or taking on within your role. There is a place for everyone, and a well-rounded team allows individuals to really shine their brightest. So first, we'd like to discuss what the project admin role might look like currently. Project admins are very versatile. The range of tasks is definitely too wide to capture on a slide or two, but here are some examples of what current job responsibilities might look like. Inputting data into project management software to track time expenditures on projects, creating and generating project-specific revenue and time analysis spreadsheets, managing accounts receivable, processing mileage reports, preparing client invoices for monthly billing, ordering certificates of insurance for new projects, providing administrative support for construction admin, scheduling meetings, setting up electronic folders for project-related information, supporting principals and project managers in proposal writing, creating requests for proposals for consultants, and then of course processing contracts and subcontracts. And as I mentioned before, this is a very general overview of current project admin related tasks, but we thought about what does the future of the project admin role look like? And Georgianne will now share some examples of additional admin responsibilities that KPG has recently introduced within our own team.
So what are some other amazing things besides all the great stuff Annalyn just mentioned that this new prospective project admin staff could do? And we realize that each firm, everyone already has different roles. Some of you may be doing stuff on the slide before and some of the stuff on this slide. So we hope this is just like a way to get your creative juices flowing. So some of the things that KPG has implemented include, the first one I put on the list was formatting specifications. We have one staff that gathers all the information. She doesn't write the spec, but she gathers all the WSPs and all the important stuff that goes into that ginormous volume. And she collates and then she formats all of the different specs, especially when they come in from different people in different formats. And that is so valuable to our project management team that they just want more and more of it. We also do input and provide quality assurance for fee estimates. So like Danny on this call, a lot of times she looks over spreadsheets, makes sure people haven't missed any of the PMs haven't accidentally missed a cell in a spreadsheet. And we even have people who look over scopes and just create the fee estimate for the PM based on the tasks that are in the scope. Then the PM goes in and fills in the hours, of course. We also monitor rate increases and contract expirations so that PMs can pay attention to designing and not have to remember, oh yeah, well this contract expired, or I can update my rates next year. We worked with our principals and PMs to create a handbook, and we had a PM boot camp several years in a row, and the administrative team trained on contract management in that project manager boot camp. We have different offices, and all of our staff help manage the different facilities at each location. We've also helped set up interviews for new candidates. We've helped with scheduling and coordinated with HR. We've helped really hire new support people, and we've also helped with interns. We've done some onboarding. We've manage outside sales reps and vendors, and we also schedule lunch and learns. We work with the documents on our server, and we keep those managed and edited. And we also help to maintain the employee handbook that was written quite a few years ago, but the project admin staff was integral in developing that. We plan on taking and recording project meeting minutes for our PMs. That's one of the things we're working on helping with. And we've been attempting to organize our physical library, and we're really trying to turn it more into a digital library on the server. We've helped with business development in the past, and we've coordinated with marketing quite a bit. And of course, we support office culture and plan outings and office-wide events. Oops, I did the thing that I didn't want to do. There it is. Okay.
All right, so with these next level project admin tasks in mind, we'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the future of the industry. Mr. Good had discussed demographic industry shifts that are in the process of occurring. So he presented to us that data is reporting that less people are entering the A&E industry. And he cited companies like Johnson & Johnson, Amazon, and Google as one potential reason why this is occurring. He brought up that larger companies that offer higher salaries to recent grads, traditional and non-traditional benefits like the startup culture, and options to live in desirable areas of the country pose to be some stiff competition for recruitment and retainment of recent grads within the A&E industry. In 10 years, the median age will change from 43 to 54 years old. And projections show it'll be harder to fill positions with junior staff by the year of 2053. And in addition, salaries and technology costs are rising faster than the revenue per dollar. Salaries will be higher for older employees, and based on the data trends, as the median age increases, the median salary will likely increase as well. So we think that these industry shifts actually provide some opportunities for us. Mr. Goodhead, had mentioned that these shifts will require firms to think a little bit more proactively in order to put themselves in the best position in the future. The first opportunity is a financial one. Revenue per person is a key performance determiner, and admins can mitigate rising costs. Admins can perform many project-related tasks at a lower cost than principals or senior staff members. And the second opportunity relates to professional development. As industry shifts occur, additional growth paths for admin career development will emerge. And if project admins continue to establish value, more admins will be hired as firms grow. Admins will have the opportunity to seek out gaps and find ways to incorporate new responsibilities within their current position. And we hope that admins will feel empowered to take ownership of a more active role within the project management process.
So you may be wondering if this is something that maybe you're already doing this, or maybe you're wondering if you could implement this at your firm. In his presentation, Simon Goodhead spoke about various traits that encompass an ideal administrative team. He fondly referred to one of his administrative staff who he was so enamored with that he bought her flowers when she left. He didn't indicate it was a she, but was very impressed with the level of support he got. He also noted that many times the people who are great in this role come from outside of the industry, but they succeed because they have these characteristics. And I'll go through them quickly and then we'll elaborate on the following slides. So prioritization, you can prioritize your tasks and you can manage your time well. You know what emotional intelligence is and you exhibit it. You realize that language is extremely powerful. And you understand that communication is key. You understand that being delegated to is sort of implied in the position, but you're also able to delegate. And you take initiative and anticipate what the PMs might need before they even realize it themselves. And finally, we added this one. This was not on Simon's. The ability to think critically is imperative for this role. And there's Mavi. He's our superhero.
Okay, so the first characteristic that we're going to talk about is prioritizing and time management. So Mr. Goodhead offered the following examples of what it means to have these skills. The first is setting up deadlines and meeting them, taking regular breaks, refraining from multitasking, knows how to say no when the plate is already full, and plans for tomorrow today. Prioritizing and managing your time may seem like a no-brainer, but it is a challenge for some people. Things come up, there's distractions, meetings run long. This one is particularly common with me, that tasks turn out to be a little bit more complicated than I initially thought. So planning your schedule in advance is a great place to start, but the real test is how do you regroup and shift gears when things don't go as planned. In his presentation, Mr. Goodhead recommended scheduling regular breaks and refraining from multitasking. Your mind will remain clearer and you'll feel less disorganized mentally. That's the hope. It's also important to say no when your plate is already full and recognizing when that's where you're at. You can have the best intentions in the world and want to help everyone, but if you have too much on your plate, your efforts will be diluted and you're not going to be able to perform at your full potential. And finally, planning for tomorrow today. I think that's a big one. Thinking ahead and being thoughtful of what your week looks like will always set the stage for success.
So emotional intelligence is the second characteristic that we'd love to share about being very important to this role. There's been a lot written about emotional intelligence, and it may seem like I don't know exactly what that is, but another term that's in the current culture is mindfulness, and it's a really good way to think about emotional intelligence as well. This trait is particularly important for the project admin role because the lens that we see through is one of support. So we tend to interact with many different people and many different personalities. So we're constantly navigating those intricacies and communication styles. So the graphic here, the self-awareness, self-management, group awareness, and group management, these are a really good way to think about how to be emotionally intelligent. Self-awareness and management is important to know what your triggers are. So for me, I do invoices for 7 different principals and project managers, and every single one of them does their invoices differently. So there's one principle in particular that I had a really hard time with when I first started, and I would end up feeling unprepared, and sometimes I even felt dumb in the process. And I realized that I was reacting to his communication style, and I hated those feelings. So in order to I had that self-awareness. In order to manage that, I sorted out a process where I would lay out all the information he would want before we even got together for invoices. I'd send him an invite, and then he would look at everything on his own time. And then we'd get together and do the information. So knowing that I reacted and had these horrible feelings helped me manage that and create a process that worked for both of us. It's also really important to know how you communicate. There's a wonderful book called Crucial Conversations. It's by Al Switzler, Joseph Grenny, and Ron McMillan. And it really helps with communication when you get tipped emotionally. So you're going along in a conversation, everything's wonderful, and then someone says something, and all of a sudden you realize, are they insulting me? You know, something happens, and the conversation is no longer just a normal conversation. And they have 2 tips that I love that help when a conversation has, you know, all of a sudden created adrenaline and sent all the blood from your head where you need it the most to your extremities, trying to figure out if you need to fight or flee. So the tips that really stood out for me there were about managing like knowing you're coming from the right place. So you're in that conversation, and all of a sudden you don't know if the person is you know, insulting you. You know, can you know that you are now tipped, and then don't respond from that tipped place, but sort yourself out before you open your mouth. Because the last thing you want to do is feel like you've handled something poorly, or say something you'll regret, or create a relationship with someone where there's always tension. So know that you want to solve the problem, get clarity, and be in the right place before you communicate. The other tip that I loved that they gave was, when you go to communicate, and when you're just in a conversation with someone, if you have that experience of being tipped, can you be curious and not furious? And I love that they created the rhyme, but it's really, furious could be, you know, upset, sad, you know, self-critical. Having that curiosity mindset, listening to others, and understanding that everyone's perspective is different, and you always have more to learn and understand about what is happening around you. That self-management skill will really take you far in terms of communicating. And then the group awareness aspect is really important, because this is that skill of noticing and understanding the communication styles and personalities within the dynamic of the group, whether it's a PM meeting or a whole company picnic. KPG started out as a really small company. I think there were 3 of them, Joe and a couple more, and now we're at 115. But when it was small, everyone did everything themselves. So as we, as a project administrator group, have offered to do more contract processing or communication with clients, they have had a hard time giving up parts of what they've always been accountable for. So knowing your firm culture, or knowing the dynamics of the group you're working within, will really help you figure out how to navigate and manage the changes. One wonderful way to work communication-wise inside of a group, when you realize the dynamic, is, let's say that your new accountability is creating subcontracts or communicating with clients, and the PM you're supposed to be doing this for just went ahead and did it. They didn't, you know, honor that that's now your accountability. Instead of saying, you know, why did you do this? You can ask a what question and say, what could I take off your plate? I was under the impression I might be able to help you with the client communication. Is that something I could take off your plate still? And it's that curiosity mindset and those what questions, especially within a group, so that it's very clear your intention is just to move forward and figure out what the right way to help is, not accuse someone of what they've done wrong. And also, I want to point out that feedback is really important. You don't necessarily have to do this in the group environment, but a lot of times in a group you see the impact of the dynamic on different members. So while it's easy to give group feedback about, positive feedback about what's wonderful, sometimes it's a little challenging to give feedback that seems like it's negative or share something that didn't work for you. One thing that I'll invite you to think about is that giving feedback is actually an investment in the relationship. So if you're willing to use your communication skills and share maybe how you felt and take accountability for your feelings, but explain to someone that they might have had an impact that they don't realize they're having. It's possible, I'm not saying it'll work all the time, but it's possible that will create a reflection for them and they may walk away more self-aware. If you're clear and you do it with intention, with a clear, heartfelt intention, and you're knowledgeable of the group dynamics, you have to do it that way. That's the most important part of that feedback piece. So working on self and group awareness and management of both will go a long way in helping people see the value of you or the position that you're creating in project administration and this new position. And going along with that, Simon Goodhead did a great job of sharing examples of communication styles that really don't work well. It's really important to think about what you say and how it could be interpreted. It's important to be cognizant that your communication might be received not how you wanted it to be. So the phrases on this slide are really blatant examples that Simon shared on how people might interpret what you say. He then offered some alternative ways that will help accomplish what you're trying to do and leave people feeling heard and ready to help. So some examples are, I'm too busy. Some people hear that as, I'm too important to deal with you. I'm incapable of dealing with my workload, and I want to project my stress onto you. So he invited everyone to instead say, what you're asking is important. My schedule's jammed. Let's see when we can fit this in. Another example, I can't be bothered with that, which she says translates a lot of times into, I'm too important to deal with you and your things. And of course, we don't want people feeling that way at all. So maybe you could say, we need to prioritize our efforts. Let's see where this fits in. And finally, I can't believe you did that translates a lot of times to, you're stupid. So why not say, help me understand your decision here. Simon had a handout of all the different kinds of things people could say that could be interpreted wrong, and we are happy to email that out if anyone didn't attend the seminar and didn't get that. And the next slide goes hand in hand with this because communication is key.
Yeah, I definitely think of this slide kind of as a sibling to the one that Georgie just presented on language, because both content and the way that it's said, I think, are equally as important. So in his presentation, Mr. Goodhead recommended clarifying messages throughout conversations. And I think that communication now more than ever is a challenge because I think that many of us are still working remotely due to COVID-19. And even if you are in the office, chances are you have coworkers or clients who are still at home. So in the past, it was so easy just to walk up to someone's desk and check in face to face. And now we need to navigate new ways of getting our messages across to a variety of people, not just our colleagues. So Mr. Goodhead recommends checking in regularly during conversations to eliminate the chances of a communication breakdown. He recommends refraining from assuming a message is correctly received the first time. Assuming that a message is received just because it makes sense to you is not really fair. Periodically checking in and asking the right questions will help confirm if your message has stuck. We do a lot of communicating via email, and so information is not always caught. I know even for me, I've had emails slip through the cracks, or I'll send someone an email and maybe they scan it, but they don't read it fully, so I don't get all the information back that I need. So I really think that, especially now more than ever, following up is really necessary. Mr. Goodhead recommends being very genuine when you acknowledge and engage with others. This includes making eye contact, actively participating in the conversation, and showing interest in the conversation. These seem pretty basic, but it could be the difference in helping build confidence in the person you're communicating with and making them second guess their message. A lack of acknowledgement and engagement are more subtle examples, the ones that Georgie had just listed on the language slide, but the interpretation will most likely still be negative. He mentions that communication is 70% body language, which has, almost completely been eliminated during virtual meetings, especially if we don't use our webcams. I can't promise I won't be wearing comfy pants, but I almost always have my webcam on unless I'm being recorded. And Mr. Good had also pointed out that it's important to be cognizant of others' emotional state and adjust the communication style appropriately. This, I think, goes along with Georgianne's slide on emotional intelligence. He also suggested that we listen as twice as much as we talk. And this one's really hard for me because I love to talk and I usually get very excited when we have discussions in meetings. But I have to remember to listen. It's a work in progress for me. I'm very aware. And then finally, he suggested that we talk with and not at others. This point also goes hand in hand with the language slide that Georgie just presented. Repeatedly interrupting or cutting people off most likely will just come across as just being dismissive. It's important to approach conversations with the thought process, like, this person finds value in what they're talking about, and maybe just because I don't understand it or it doesn't make sense to me just yet doesn't mean that it's not there. Okay, so for our next slide, I don't know if we have any football fans here, but I wanted to share a clip with you of the infamous helmet catch from the 2008 Super Bowl. This really stood out to me because I am a Jersey girl and I grew up a Giants fan and we really disliked the Patriots in my household. But just a little bit of background, the underdog Giants were losing 14-10 to the undefeated Patriots. The Patriots had a perfect season so far. And it was third down, and there was less than 2 minutes left in the game. So Eli Manning, the Giants quarterback, had one final shot to keep the game alive. So this clip is going to show him throwing the ball to David Tyree, who successfully caught it using his helmet. And ultimately, the Giants won the Super Bowl against the Patriots and disrupted their perfect season. So Georgie's going to play the video for us, and on the left-hand side, you can see a close-up picture of the actual catch with the ball on his helmet. So Georgie, if you don't mind playing the video for us.
We got a first down. In the biggest drive of his life, Eli Manning was part of the most miraculous play in Super Bowl history. Direct snap to Manning. Back to throw. The rush. Gonna be hit. Gonna be sacked. No, we got out of it. Now he fires downfield, and it is 24-yard line. How in the world did he do that? What a play by Manning! He runs up to Mike Tyree, calls a timeout, and what a catch by Tyree with 58 seconds to go. How did he get away from that? I have no idea. They had Manning by the back of the shirt. I am still flabbergasted with what Eli Manning was able to do. What a catch by Tyree. Tyree had Harrison all over him. The ball was on his helmet, but he got his other hand on it and pulled it in. So now the Giants are in a position to win the game. There's no quit in this team. There's no die in this team.
So that clip was a little choppy, but I think you guys get the idea that it was a very exciting play. So communication is a partnership, and like any football team, project admins rely on each other to win. And it's important to think about how the message you're sending will be received. And the idea of a quarterback throwing to his teammate and comparing it to an effective communication process was actually taken from another presentation from the conference, which was the how to lead with authority, even if you're not the boss. So if the message isn't caught, it's not successful. It's failed communication. So the idea was, how do we put our team members in the best possible position to receive those messages so we don't need to scramble as much as Eli Manning and David Tyree did?
Oops, there we go. So that was fun. Thanks so much, Annalyn. The next characteristic beyond, knowing that your communication is actually received, is knowing how to delegate and being open to delegation. Because the nature of this project administrator role is taking on tasks that have formerly done by PMs or principals, the ability to be delegated to is crucial and almost implied. However, as this role evolves, many of your other responsibilities may need to be delegated to other staff. That's what makes the ability to delegate well another important trait to the project administrator role. This graphic of Jessica Jackley, who is a wildly successful businesswoman who co-founded a nonprofit called Kiva that provides microloans to people all around the world. She's quoted as saying, "I got the job by starting to do the job," which provides a great example for the way that the project administrator role could develop. So after you've started to do the role, some of the things that you might have to delegate, there are ways you could do it that are effective. So evaluating the strength of the person to whom you're going to delegate to is really important, that it guides the process. For example, if he or she isn't the best communicator, don't ask that person to send out the company-wide email that you need to send out. Also, communicate why, and remember how important and how powerful communication can be from the slides we were just talking about. State your reasons. This is a crucial task for the firm or the team. And have respect for the person to whom you delegate. Please evaluate if this will work for you to do. The idea of dumping on someone won't be a good delegation tactic. Also, you need to remain accessible for questions and engage if necessary. You got to understand that feedback is a two-way street, so both the person to whom you're delegating and you will benefit from regular feedback, especially if you work out a system and you know that this will actually work in the future, so you can keep delegating to this person. You also have to keep in mind that until the accountability shifts, you need to assume the ultimate accountability after you delegate, and know that you trust the person to whom you're delegating, but you still need to verify that it's done because you hold that ultimate accountability. And he pointed out there's some phrases that will help you know if you don't necessarily have delegation skills yet. One is, "Oh, I can do it faster," or "Nobody can do it as well as I can," or "No one else has time. I'll do this," or "They'll just make mistakes. I'll just do it." So if you find yourself saying any of these things in your mind, Simon Goodhead noted that it might be good to brush up on your delegation skills, and you will start achieving more of what you want.
So for this slide, the initiative slide, Mr. Goodhead didn't discuss taking initiative in his presentation, but Georgie and I thought it would be a valuable addition. Initiative is all about taking charge. It's the first step in a series of action, and it's the start of something with the hope that it will continue. Initiative can also mean a personal quality that shows a willingness to get things done and to take responsibility. So some of the things that we wanted to share was that actively seeking to participate in professional development opportunities is taking initiative. There's always more to learn, and some of the best places to do that are at organizations like SDA. So being a member and showing up to this presentation took initiative. You're looking to connect with other people in your industry, and that's very respectable. asking thoughtful questions. You know, in order to ask thoughtful questions, there has to be an element of critical thinking at play. Continues to question why and why not. Never stop asking questions and finding new ways to do things. Also, working independently. Working independently frees up your manager's time and their mental energy. Recognizing when they become comfortable in their role and look for continued growth opportunities. Seeks out opportunities for collaborative conversations and discussions. Personal connections and conversations can provide a wealth of knowledge. And finally, supports change. Since one of the definitions of initiative include the start of something, can't be afraid of change. KPG has really grown organically throughout the years, and at this stage in our growth, additional structure and some procedures are necessary. So a few of the things that Georgie and I have worked on since I was hired include a contract tracking manual, testing out different contract tracking softwares, putting a workflow diagram for contract approval together, a rate increase cheat sheet for lag agreements if you're involved with government work, lag agreement trading videos, and rewriting of our subcontract template. So I've always appreciated Georgie's willingness to listen to my ideas, and I wouldn't have been able to move forward with them if it wasn't for her help. So it really goes back to communication. It's a partnership, and Georgie and I have worked together to take that initiative and actually turn it into something. So it's been really exciting. So now Georgie is going to talk about the next characteristic, which is critical thinking.
Thanks, Annalyn. You know, when Annalyn first started and I was training her about like just how to process contracts, I found myself constantly saying to her, oh, you know, this is a weird one. And then after a while, I realized they were almost all weird ones. So our procedure wasn't going to work just as is, and we'd have to figure a few things out. So she was really great at turning on her critical thinking skills, because the training then turned into how do you sleuth out the answers for all the weird ones. So this is imperative. It's an imperative trait for this project administrator role, because one of the main purposes is to help take tasks off others' plates. But if you have to continually ask questions, it can become more time consuming for the person you're trying to help. And as Annalyn said before, you should never stop asking questions, but a lot of times you can answer a lot of your own questions and figure out where to go to ask them if you can't get the answer. So it's important when you're either considering this role, the project administrator role, for yourself or for your firm, that the person does not have the mindset that they want to have everything clearly explained and everything needs to be really well laid out and easy to figure out. This position, this project admin role, it really has to enjoy navigating through unknown territory. So some of the ways that critical thinking pertains to this rule include seeing the big picture and considering that before making decisions and figuring out solutions. So knowing like the values of the firm is really important before you figure out how to move forward with a certain process or procedure. Discerning how much time to spend on a task before asking for help. Like I said, sometimes, you know, if it's going to take you all day to figure it out and you could just ask someone, that's a valid reason to find time to get help. And for me, really knowing where to go for what you need, that's what I was just saying about knowing who has the best information and who can get you that information quickly. That is a huge skill, and it saves a lot of time. And, you know, Annalyn really embodies this critical thinking aspect, and all of the initiatives she just spoke about were wonderful. Just within the first year of being here, she's really created and brought that beginner's mindset to the role, and it's been wonderful. She helped me kind of step outside of some of the ways I had been thinking about doing things. So she's living proof that critical thinking is very important to this role.
All right, so that slide, the critical thinking slide, brings us to the end of the characteristics that make up the right fit for the admin role. So continuing on with that, as I've mentioned, I was brought onto the team at KPG last year, and I really wanted to learn how the team functioned before me, but I also wanted to present ideas of how things could be done in the future. And I think it's important to be respectful of the balance of both like worlds before and then, what it can be. So Georgie and I had spoken about how important it is that an individual in our role exhibits all the characteristics that we had previously mentioned on the last few slides. And some of the important traits that encompass all of the ones we mentioned, the bottom line ones, are the willingness to learn, commitment to the team, and a good attitude. So questions to ask yourself include, am I committed to the firm? Do I share their values? Am I willing to take initiative to fill in gaps? And am I willing to speak up, share ideas, and be accountable? And then there's also some repercussions of a poor fit in the role. Repercussions are most always negative. Project managers might lose trust in the ability of the project admin team if they aren't able to smoothly function. If mistakes are made and there is confusion within the team, the project managers might be less likely to turn to the team for assistance with tasks. And that's why it's important to make sure that training and development opportunities are available for the admin team. I heard a valuable statement or piece of advice many years ago, and I've held on to it. And it is that you can teach skills, but you can't teach spirit. And I think that HR is really the best line of defense in ensuring that the right people are brought on at your firm. HR should have a clear vision of what characteristics are vital to the role and definitely hire accordingly. So now Georgie will spend some time discussing why the project admin role requires leadership skills.
So really, many firms have a leadership structure that's filled with people who are in that role because they're great at what they do. They're a great engineer, they're a great architect, but not because they're a great leader. So some of the senior staff are hyper involved in projects. They're still doing the technical aspects of design. And this project administrative role can really help fill some of those gaps in leadership. So since change can be extremely challenging for people, so now you're asking these principals to think about you as part of the leadership, right? The new project administrator role needs to have skills like inspiring confidence and educating staff and principals and helping them understand that you helping and providing this leadership role is about the betterment of the company. And this role is important. So you'll need to understand how to, as a leader, motivate others, not only to accept the role, but also how to contribute toward organizational success, which for them might mean relinquishing some of the accountability and trusting you. And, another leadership quality is you have to know the difference between leading because you want power and you want to control a situation or people, which many people don't understand, is not the best form of leadership. Or it can work, but if you learn to inspire and influence, this will be an integral way for you to have other people understand how integral this position is, and they'll get it. So, one of the natural outcomes of being considered a leader is also that you are truly valuable. If you enhance the quality of people's life and they realize what you do helps them do their job much better, then you're not going to be the person they want to let go during a pandemic. It's a wonderful, having these leadership skills is a wonderful job security measure as well. And not that that should motivate you necessarily, it's just a natural outcome. And I love the quote by Brene Brown, because there's so much information on leadership and so many books and so many pieces that you could read about how to be a wonderful leader. But one of her quotes really inspires me. She says to her, "A leader is someone who holds her or himself accountable for finding potential in people and processes." And that is a wonderful role for the project administrator, to see the potential of the firm and how you can help grow and help the firm succeed. But everybody loves change unless it's happening to them, right? Wonderful, great, let's change everything, just I don't want to change. So how do you navigate this new position? How do you help people accept that change? So you really have to realize that the change management aspect has to, it's like required for stakeholders. All the people who will benefit from this, and that's really everyone, but the PMs and the principals have to buy into this project administrative role and be willing to learn and be flexible. So when you understand change management, really what you're doing is you're managing anxiety, and you're managing people's feelings, and you're managing people's fear that they're letting go of their accountabilities and you won't do it as well. You're managing the stress that they're anticipating of how the change will happen. There can also be excitement, there can be anticipation, but you have to really let people go through their phases. And after they've gone through, like the graphic on this slide, the ending, the neutral, and the new beginning, then the possibility will emerge for them, and you can help influence them to relinquish some of the tasks and accountabilities they've had and honor you and empower you to create them. So part of understanding change management is understanding these three phases. It's important to know what phase people are in too, if you can. The graphic here is from William Bridges, and he really sees that there are three phases. So this ending phase and the losing and the letting go, the aspect you can embody during this phase are really acknowledging the change openly and showing sympathy or empathy, and not rejecting anyone's reaction. Just everything's valid. Just holding that space that, yes, it's all challenging and I get it, I hear you. Then if they get through that and they're sort of like, okay, what's this going to be now? You know, and there's this neutral zone. This is when things are settling in and there's lots of time for creativity here. But there can also be heightened anxiety. So sometimes old patterns will emerge. They've accepted it sort of, but then they'll go back to doing their thing and you'll wonder, well, why all of a sudden are you doing that again? In this space, you really want to give them space to have their reaction, but check in a lot and see if there are questions. Have those what questions, not, why did you do this, but, what could I take off your plate, like I referenced earlier. And then after you kind of go through that and you get into the new beginning, this is really when you want to emphasize the value of what you're doing and the why and the purpose for the change, because now all that stress is lessened. Now they're kind of getting used to things. People are moving forward, things are happening, and they can really hear you now. So when you say this is valuable for the company, they have something to reference and say, yeah, that did help. That was helpful. I do like. So keep in mind that, the bigger the change, the longer it'll take people to accept. And they may be in the new beginning stage and then sort of lapse back to neutral, or have questions. And your role is really to continue to inspire them and influence them. Create a clear path showing them where you're headed, why it's valuable, and help them understand that the outcomes that you achieve will really be valuable for the firm. So it takes a lot of repetition a lot of times for leaders to hear and experience over and over that you really have this down and you can really help. So inspiring that confidence will help navigate the changes of the firm.
Hey, Georgiana, I'm going to butt in real quick and do a time check.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure you're on track. Are we running just a little bit behind, or how's your time?
Well, this is our final slide, and then it looks like we might have like four
Yep.
maybe minutes of questions. I see 3 questions in the chat.
Okay.
So we were just going to thank you very much for the time check, Carrie. We were going to just share a few examples of some of the things that we are calling our superpowers at KPG. We created a group email, so all project managers and principals just email one project admin at KPG, and then no matter what they're asking for, if it's project related, we sort out on our end who does what.
We started reviewing all contracts for rate increase info, and we remind project managers when their contract is eligible for a rate increase request.
And I think I shared earlier, we analyze scopes and fees, but what we're also striving to do now is look at the hours assessment that PMs are saying they can create a project or a task in, and look historically to see if that's accurate or if they need more or fewer hours.
We're hoping in the future to begin attending client meetings with our project managers and take minutes for them, which ultimately we would prepare and file as well for the project managers. So just another element of support.
And we have taken it on ourselves to learn Microsoft Project, so they can give us a few dates and we can get them a project schedule.
We also have worked on some changes with our signature authority, and as part of that, we are starting to create a database of approved contract templates.
And we've also done statistic tracking, so they don't have to keep up with their the amount of I'm losing my words here. We do the entry, all the stats for what's my word here?
The diversity compliance management software.
Yeah.
For the line
and also
agreements.
and also in Ariba and an e-builder. So those are just some of our superpowers. We'd love to hear in the last 3 minutes things that your firms are doing, or things you've tried, or even if you've tried something and it's failed.
Okay, I'm going to jump right on that one. We're a much smaller firm, but we do have 3 people that are all working in accounting and project admin, like overlapping roles. And we did that group email, and it has been a lifesaver because now there's one email that things go to, and 3 of us have access to it, and there's no longer, oh, I didn't get that, or that alone was quite the efficiency tool. Just consolidating that and letting us handle it within our own little group. So that's awesome. Yeah, I like that one a lot. You've got several in your chat window there. Do you guys want to look there? You do have some great questions from Judy.
You know, Judy, I love the CSI question, and I actually do have my CDT, but the person in our firm who's doing that, she doesn't, so I'll mention that to her. So thanks for bringing that up, that she can go learn about CSI specs. The engineers don't use CSI specs, but that would be great for her to help with the architects. And then Judy asks, how would you handle a project administrator who had all the hard skills to perform the job but lacked good communication skills, like they had a hard time presenting info to managers, etc.? Let's see, we've got a couple minutes. I am working on working with one of my staff with this, and it is a slow process. I'll say that because especially when fear is involved, like they have a hard time because they're scared. The process to me is about talking to them, and sometimes the conversations are kind of personal and they're not necessarily professional, but talking to them about what it is that has them think that they can't do whatever the task is, whether it's, talking in front of a group or even just asking a question of somebody that's higher up in the agency. So it's a wonderful question. I think it's personality based probably, and my attempts have been to really talk through them, inspire confidence, sort of get at the roots of what the problem are. Has anybody else worked with that?
Judy's question was specifically about presenting info to managers. Sometimes it's helpful to have somebody else present that information, even if one person is supposed to be doing the presentation. If they're only good at the gathering and not so good at the presenting, maybe there's somebody else who can pitch for them. Sometimes that works pretty well.
That's awesome. Anyone else? I guess it's 1 o'clock.
You can go ahead. We started a couple minutes late to give people a chance, so we'll go ahead and slide our buffer a couple minutes.
Okay. Judy also asked, does your firm offer any type of personality or what's your work style for employees to enable better communication? And Judy, last year, one of the fun things that I did, it was fun for me, I hope it was fun for everybody who came, I had a retreat, an admin retreat, and we just did low-key. We came to my house, and you know, it was not an expensive thing, but it was just an opportunity to go off-site, and we all created it together as a team, and we decided to take a personality test. So we all took the Myers-Briggs, and that was really fun. And then our HR manager put everybody in this fun grid of what Star Wars character you would be based on your personality type. So it was super fun. And it helped us understand that we work for an AE firm where they're almost all on the left brain introvert side. And we, in this graphic for the Myers-Briggs, we were all on the extrovert creating culture right brain side. So we saw that our team was a really good fit as a complement to the professional services side of the firm. So as a firm, we don't, but I know the architects have done it as well, and I'm not sure about any of our other disciplines.
So what was your Star Wars character, Jordan? I have to ask.
Oh my God. It was one of the new ones. Hold on. And I didn't know who it was.
Oh,
I'm an ENFP, and it was from one of the new movies, and I can't remember. Isn't that horrible? I was like, I'm so behind the times. I gotta know the new characters. Sorry, I wish I knew that. That would be great.
All right. I don't see any other questions, so unless anybody's got one to throw in the chat window there, I definitely want to thank you both. Thank you. That was fantastic. I've jotted down some notes of my own. That was really nice. Thank you very much, Georgiana and Annalyn, and congratulations on the scholarship. I'm glad you guys were able to attend and connect. I did all the sessions myself, and they were really great. They were really awesome. Anything else you guys want to close us out with?
No, we really appreciate the opportunity, and it's wonderful to see everybody in the group. So thank you all so much, and we know you have a lot of information to share too, so we look forward to attending seminars in the future with your information.
Wonderful. All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good
Bye.
afternoon. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.